This or that. No Way Home versus Multiverse of Madness, which is now out in theaters, and this video will contain spoilers, so do be warned on that. We already did the one comparing Doctor Strange 1 to Doctor Strange 2, so this is going to be fun comparing both films and seeing which one did something better. I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, as well as hit that like and subscribe button for more movie content like this. But without further ado, let's dive in. Well, of course, the first thing to compare is who had the better villains. When we look at No Way Home had an abundance of nostalgia with their villains. Sandman, the Lizard, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Electro. That's 5 villains right there. 5 villains that I overall love. I'm a giant Spider-Man fanatic. But when you look at Multiverse of Madness, we got the Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen. And this was tough going back and forth because I'm facing nostalgia with character development. And for me, I only allow myself when I do this or that to include one tie. This is not that tie. There will be one on this list that is a tie, but I'm going to give it to Multiverse of Madness with the Scarlet Witch. A lot of that goes to Elizabeth Olsen's performance. Many of you guys might have disagreed with me on which villain was better, but I overall found her to be more scary, enlightening, and all sorts of things like that. Whereas the only villain that I feel like actually elevated something and gave a worthwhile performance, because everyone was good, we had a lot of fun with them, but for me, Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe was the only one that actually had any closeness to this. But even then, we have so much development behind Wanda already leaving into this movie, so that is why Multiverse of Madness wins better villain. On the next thing, this or that, side characters. Who had the better side characters? And this one, Multiverse of Madness, you get America Chavez, Wong, not including Wanda, but then you look at the Illuminati and certain things like that, and even Christine Palmer. But when you look at Spider-Man, if you don't use the villains, you look at Ned, Zendaya, you also look at Toby and Andrew. And I think this one is the most obvious one. The obvious winner is No Way Home. No Way Home did a better job with its nostalgia, with the characters, because the cameos, you know, in Multiverse of Madness were good, but they weren't developed enough. The Illuminati weren't developed. I know they were cameos, but you could have developed that sequence a little bit more. As well, America Chavez is very much used as a plot device as much as I wanted her to be used in a better way. She's a good character, and Ochi Gomez does as much as she can with the role. Wong is, of course, great, and Christine Palmer, again, Rachel McAdams, has a lot of good depth in here. I just wish we would have gotten more of that smaller little moments, especially that moment between her and Doctor Strange when he says, "I love you" in every universe. But when we look at No Way Home, the way that they set up the friends Ned and of course Zendaya's MJ, and how that works with, of course, Peter, as well as everyone knowing about who Peter is now, and even, of course, Toby and Andrew, in the way that they actually used them as secondary characters and not just cameos. They were important for the story, and that was nostalgia done right, so No Way Home clearly wins this. Now let's look. Which film had the better story, No Way Home or Multiverse of Madness? Both dealing with the multiverse, and this one, I'm going to flat out just give it to No Way Home right off the bat. Now, both scripts have little bits of mess here and there, but No Way Home, I find the messes to happen in the first act of the movie, but really much get better as the film goes on. And, you know, there's still some conveniences in here where I'm like, but why would that work? And why would you do it like this? And again, a lot of that probably does go down to COVID. Doctor Strange, in the sense, I feel has a good story under a layer of messy themes and developments. I have a lot of different issues when it comes down to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness's actual script itself and some of the editing and certain scenes that I just feel like were missing from this that needed that development. Where No Way Home actually gave time. When after Aunt May died, you get a lot of development between Peter and how that works, and that slower moment, that buildup makes the finale so grand. Where Multiverse of Madness, I never felt like we got that time to settle in and rush. And again, this is a very different movie than No Way Home in that context, but No Way Home wins every single time for me. That's where we're going to jump into better hero moment. And this was tough because Doctor Strange has some badass moments in here, guys. Like, oh my god. Whether it was him raising the dead and taking over a dead version of Strange and performing necromancy to defeat Wanda, whether it was him doing the musical notes, but how do you compare to this? I mean, the better hero moment, it goes to Spider-Man. And it's hard to disagree and go back and forth, but you got 3 Spider-Mans swinging around at the same time, kicking ass, as well as that sequence with Tom Holland beating the shit out of Green Goblin in the entire apartment complex. That sequence wins every single time, even though I do think the visual effects for Multiverse of Madness in those moments were even better. Speaking of visual effects, let's jump into this or that, which one had the better visual effects, and I will actually go as far to say Multiverse of Madness. Now, I do think sometimes you can tell there's a green screen or a little bit lazy stuff here and there with certain floating mechanics, but even then, when it goes down to attention of detail of every single moment, Multiverse of Madness wins. The streets are filled, the world looks lively, I love the look and design of everything in Multiverse of Madness, whereas No Way Home, it looks a little bit dull in certain scenes. Everything looks good in No Way Home for the most part, besides here and there. But other than that, I've just had more fun with the visual effects in Multiverse of Madness, and I think, honestly, it was written to be a little bit better than No Way Home in that part. Now let's jump in. Which film had the better score? And this is tough. You have Giacchino, who I think is one of the most underrated composers right now, versus Danny Elfman, who is one of the best composers of all time, who created some of the most iconic themes in Hollywood. And for me, it was a toss-up, but I am going to give it to Danny Elfman here. I think Danny Elfman in Multiverse of Madness created such a rift. Those guitar riffs, those weird moments, it was straight up out of an 80s film, but it worked for the context of the story. Where Giacchino does a great job with the themes, I just wish we would have gotten a little bit more of him mixing and intertwining Andrew Garfield's original score as well as Tobey Maguire's, and I think that would have given me the better oomph right there. The nostalgia, everything would have clicked in there. I just didn't think they used enough of that, whereas when I look at Danny Elfman's score for Multiverse of Madness, it was unique, it was different. No Way Home's, I've kind of heard it all before with the other previous Spider-Man movies. Next, we have better action scene. Now, this was tough. I was actually going to give myself a tie for this one originally, but after more thinking, I am just going to give it to the Multiverse of Madness. No Way Home has some amazing action set pieces, and I thoroughly enjoy a lot of them in this, especially when the way that you see him flipping around, all the Spider-Mans working together. But Multiverse of Madness does have more memorable action scenes in my personal opinion. Besides, if you take out the other Spider-Mans, it's just more spider sequences. In this one, you have him raising the dead. You have Wanda absolutely executing the entire Illuminati. You have moments like that, and especially the sound moment where it's Doctor Strange versus Sinister Doctor Strange, and they're using the musical notes to fight. The score was kicking ass there. The visual effects were kicking ass. Everything in there. Multiverse of Madness gets this win. Now we get to better surprises. Now, both movies, unfortunately, had leaks to them, which sucks because going in, we kind of knew who the cameos were going to be, but we are still very much unsure on those. For here, I mean, the easiest winner is No Way Home. I never believed, like, I wanted to believe that No Way Home that had Tobey and Andrew, but I didn't. I could never believe that they actually got them to do it until I was sitting in the theater and I saw them pop up through the portal. Even Willem Dafoe, for the most part, like, I know we saw the Goblin, but I didn't think we were actually going to get Dafoe. I didn't think they would actually be able to, and they did. They satisfied that. They just satisfied that nostalgia, and I give it to No Way Home tenfold. Where Multiverse of Madness, I don't think it is the Multiverse of Madness. It's Multiverse of fun. There's some fun aspects in here. I love a lot of the stuff that we got in here. I love John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I love that we got him. Even though I want more of him, to really much further out my opinion, we got Black Bolt, we got Captain Carter, we got Professor X, which they should not have shown in the trailer. So many cool things in this movie that I really, really liked. But Tobey and Andrew, man. Nostalgia wins every time for me, especially when it's nostalgia done right. Of course, now we have which film had the better ending. Now, if you've watched my review for Multiverse of Madness, you definitely know where I'm going to lean on this, and that is No Way Home. Multiverse of Madness ends in a very Sam Raimi way, cliffhanger-wise, especially with a big, giant surprise. Something like Evil Dead would have ended like, and I appreciate that for the most part, even if I wish the end credit scene for me kind of undoes that. I wish they would have just combined both of those together. But when I look at this one, No Way Home, it ends in a way with a great spider swing, but it ends in a way where Peter is by himself on his own. Aunt May's dead, no one remembers him, and he's put in a place where it intrigues me to see his next chapter, which has not been like that for a very long time for a lot of these comic book films. Of course, last but not least, I'm sure if you've been keeping count, of course, Multiverse of Madness is in last place right now, and will this one also win it? Well, it's which one met my expectations. And sadly, Multiverse of Madness is not going to win this. It is No Way Home. I feel that No Way Home was a better film overall. It was one that I thoroughly more enjoyed and actually did meet my expectations for every box that needed to be checked. Sure, there's a couple different things I would have liked to have happened in the film, But when I look at Multiverse of Madness, my expectations were as high as they were for No Way Home. And I say that because you got Sam Raimi directing, who Sam Raimi absolutely killed it. I think if we were just comparing directors, Sam Raimi wins this all day long. I even think he did a better job directing this movie than Jon Watts did directing No Way Home, because the visual style, everything like that, the horror tone, all that. My issue with this was I went into this wanting a more character development for Wanda, Strange, all that sorts of things. The great new character, America Chavez, who I think, again, Gomez does a great job with it. But for me, I didn't get that. I got great stuff with Wanda herself, but everything else I wanted a little bit more development within the Multiverse of Madness, and I didn't get enough of that. So sadly, that is why Multiverse of Madness is going to lose this one, and No Way Home did meet my expectations because it was exactly what I was hoping to get with this next journey and him finishing out what he is and becoming the Spider-Man that we know and love. And that's my this or that. No Way Home, of course, wins this. No tiebreaker here. Thank you so much again for watching this. You guys are really all the best. Tons of other Doctor Strange content all around the channel. Go check it out, as well as much more movie content coming up later in this week. The summer movie season has kicked off, and I can't wait to have you guys here. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below, and of course, until next time, stay classy.